We're here with part 3 of my Intro to Qigong series. Like I said, I'm not sure how many they're going to be. I keep coming up with notes in my head, and I want to get them out there. What I want to talk about today is different functions and modalities of Qigong. They're used for different things in different ways. I mean, really the overall basis is to harmonize, to heal the body, the mind, the emotions, the energy, clear out the energies for health, vitality, ultimately enlightenment. I mean, in the Tantric Buddhist tradition, you reach what's called the rainbow body. You become so purified, so clear, back to the original constituents of your elements, that you become you return to basically what's called the rainbow body. Now, once you get into the rainbow body, the body, all that's left are hair and nails are left over. Sometimes they'll leave relics called, they call them relics, like jewels, different concentrated energies into minerals that are left over from them dissolving into their rainbow body and flying into the universe. My teacher gave us, my Tibetan Qigong teacher gave us these pills that are made from the leftovers of rainbow bodies that we're to take when we know we're going to pass on, when we're going to die. Take before, to help us achieve, the opening to Buddhahood before we die. But basically, there are different forms of Qigong that relate to different functions. Like there's medical Qigong, there's a Qigong healing. Medical Qigong and Qigong healing are related, but there can be slightly different modalities about how they go about it. There's martial Qigong to build up for the martial arts. Basically, medical Qigong is a little more, it's related to acupuncture. It incorporates acupuncture in it. So you can get more detailed about what a patient might need to focus on, so that the Qigong doctor can give them a form to do to help, strengthen the liver, tonify the lungs, whatever it is. And you really get into detail about the meridians and their functions and how to harmonize and balance them. You can become a Qigong, medical Qigong doctor. My particular focus with that has been get people to prevent problems from happening, do harmonizing Qigong to keep everything running in order, so you don't have to get to that point. But Qigong, medical Qigong is very powerful, very beautiful practice, and I always recommend going to one if you can, if you've got some problems that you need looked at. There's also Qigong healers. I do Qigong healing also. It's my own form that I've developed over the years of practice and have been very effective in helping people with some problems. It's just a combination of things put together, certain steps, certain states of consciousness, allowing the energy to come through, and it's really let the energy do its job. It will do it. You have to, it's kind of like setting up the right relationship and balance so that can happen. Reiki is similar to that. Kind of get out of the way, let the energy come through. You're just the vessel for the energy to come through. You're just focusing the energy and bringing it in, really, ultimately. Reiki's great too for that, and I think everybody's got Reiki. I think that anybody can do Reiki. The healing energy is out there in the universe. Actually, it's in here. The universe is in here. It's not really out there. We're just playing the game that everything has been separated. ultimately the healing is here. It never left. We just have to, we can play the game for a while that we're separate, and that's what we're doing. We're in that dance. But once you awaken to the fact that you never left it never left you. You're there. It's achieved its goal. So medical Qigong healers, slightly different style. Somebody can be a Qigong healer and not be a medical Qigong practitioner. I'm not. It's very powerful, very beautiful. And it's not everyone could do it either. It's not, not everyone that practices Qigong is going to be a healer. It just doesn't work that way. Everyone will get a different gift from the practice. It'll awaken dormant abilities in you that you didn't even know you had. And that will continue to flower and blossom as you go. And it could be in a lot of different areas. So anyway, so medical Qigong, Qigong healers, Reiki healing, all that kind of stuff basically runs along the same lines. Medical Qigong is more clinical in that sense, more detailed, more focused on various functions, more like a Western, I call it more of a Western system of Qigong, because it's much more clinical, which can be good in some cases. Some people need that. It really have to trust your intuition on that, which direction you want to go. Again, follow your heart, follow your intuition, trust that. You want to really enjoy your journey and make sure you're going in the right direction. That can take a while sometimes. And here's another thing about mixing systems. I've gotten questions from students about, how does this relate to this system, and can I mix this with this, like mixing Reiki with Qigong and so forth. I think really it's better not to mix things right away, particularly if you're just starting. I always recommend to get your practice well integrated into your body, your mind, your spirit. Get it really, really built into the foundation. Then you can mix a little bit and a little bit here so that they flow together. You don't want a break in the continuity of energy. You want it to flow together so that it all works together, and that can take time. For instance, I'll teach some forms that are from one system, and I have thrown them together with some other systems, just, certain movements, certain ways of tuning into those energies. I'll borrow from other systems, and I will, but that's only after practicing the pure form for about 10 years. Really getting it integrated in and understanding where it comes from. Because if you mix two different systems that aren't compatible, they may look compatible at first, but then you realize they're coming at completely different angles. And believe me, I'm eclectic. I like to look at things from a lot of different angles. I enjoy it. It's part of my path. But it can really interfere. You can get an interference pattern. You got to be very careful. Like, for instance, I studied the Kunlun system, Max Christensen's, Lama Dorje's system of Kunlun practice, of spontaneous Qigong. And he recommends in that one not to do any type of fire practices, hot, rising energy practices like Kundalini yoga and so forth. And I can see why, because that's a water practice. That's letting the energy flow down and soften up and cool off. Although you can get hot during the practice because it's doing its job. So if I was doing any kind of an opposite practice, I'm stopping the flow of energy. So it's important to keep with the foundational practice and keep it as pure as possible. That's the other point I wanted to make about all this. Even throughout my other videos with this subject of a pure system, I'm gonna lay it out as well as I know it right now after 20 years of practice and 30 years of researching all of this stuff, Eastern and Western. There is no absolutely pure form or tradition. There just isn't. Everything changes and morphs over time. And that's what it's going to do if it's a living system. It's going to adapt, grow, change, mutate. It's an alive system. That's what's great about Qigong is it's adapted. That's how it's gotten here from where it started for so long. That's why it's been here for so long. It's been able to adapt. So you can search and search. And believe me, I searched for pure tradition because I want to go back to the beginning, back to the original tradition. If you can go further back and get the clean, original, unchanged tradition, it just has a purity to it, a cleanliness, a power to it that's hard to get any other way. But I always, as I research, I find, oh, there's a further tradition in it, and it's a little bit different from this one. And then I go back, oh, this goes even further, and it's a little bit different from this one. And I realized over time that you're never going to find an absolutely pure tradition. Now somebody may get an inspiration and a download of energy from the universe and start a new tradition, and maybe that's a pure tradition. But usually there's nothing new under the sun. Is really what it comes down to. Usually the case is that there's something similar or related to it further back. And that's just always going to be the case. And forms get changed. Like, for instance, my Tibetan Qigong teacher teaches us a form called One Finger Zen. Now, as I researched the form and the history of it, he had learned it from a master at the Shaolin Temple in China. And then he took that form. He traded some Tibetan Qigong forms with him for that. He took it back to Tibet, and they Tibetanized it. They turned it into a Tibetan form, although it comes from the Shaolin Temple. They're Buddhist systems, so they're all Buddhist Qigong. But it's not the original One Finger Zen form. It's a different style of One Finger Zen, and I've seen several different styles. They call it One Finger Art, the One Finger Art. There's different names for it. And I found this with a lot of different forms that I've researched. There's these original primordial forms that over time went through different branches, and people modify them to what they need, to what's going to work for them at that time. It's just natural. So in the way that I teach is I have integrated a few forms that I have found for me speed up that process of getting the chi flowing, clearing the channels, and connecting with the universe and with my inner self. So I'm only using those forms that I've ever used. I don't fly off the handle and try to offer a form that I am not extremely familiar with. I will practice it for many years before teaching it. So that's the only way that I'll do it. And I always recommend stick with the original formula that you learned, get it integrated into your system. And so I do teach fundamental foundational forms that they are what they are. Stick with it. Keep that part of the program. It's very important. Although it's also important to break up your practice now and then. If you've been doing a form for 10 years every day, the chi can get static in that flow. It's good to break it up a little bit. Loosen it up. Start another practice. Try it out. Branch out. But that's only after getting that foundational energy set. Not set, really. I'd say flowing, really. Get that foundational energy really built up. Then branch out. Have some fun with it. That's what it's about. You really want to enjoy your practice. Taste from other tables. Or go to other teachers. See what they say. See if it resonates with you. It's okay. But with your original base that you start, you're not going to get anywhere, particularly with Qigong, if you're going to go jump from one teacher to another, jump from one teaching to another. I did it for a while. It doesn't work. You've got to take that, I usually would just go back to my original one. That's it. And then I stuck with it. And once I did that, I found these other things would naturally come along that complemented it. That's what I recommend. Worked for me. It works for me now. Still learning. Still a student. I'm just offering that up to my students. And even within Qigong, you're going to get these forms that are going to be movement and static forms, standing forms, where you're just in that static form and holding it. Now, what I've found in my own personal practice, I practice both. Usually I'll do a flowing, dynamic form, followed by a static form. I find that combination works best because there's yin and yang right there. All the principles of yin and yang come into play with Qigong, and you'll find all of them, whether it's the right and left hand, the sides of the brain, the front and the back, up and down, in and out, open and closed, whatever it is. You're going to see all the opposites come into play. Now, as you become aware of that, those opposites and their dance, their play, the play of opposites, that separation I was talking about, when things have separated into seemingly two different parts, they're all dependent on each other. So you're going to get different forms that will emphasize the yin and the yang of energy, because basically you're putting yourself into a form to create a battery of energy, of yin yang energy. You're creating it, whether it's my fingertips are opposites, and there's a charge between the fingertips. There's a charge between my palms. There's a charge between my arms. There's a charge between the two sides of my brain, my two eyes, two lungs, two kidneys, all the way down, two legs and feet. You're always going to find, the front and the back, the same thing. Yang up the back, yin down the front. Look into it. Really get familiar with these energy flows, with the meridians in the body and how they relate to these energy flows, the yin and yang, because that's going to be very important. Soon you won't have to study it so much with the frontal lobes of the brain. You'll start to feel it in the body, and when you feel it in the body, which is what I try to get my students to do, I want them to experience it. Whoa, that's yin and yang right there. That's Tai Chi. I don't teach Tai Chi, but you can get Tai Chi from Qigong. It's like the original form of Tai Chi. And you'll really start to get that reverberation of energy flow. But like I said, there's dynamic forms, these moving, flowing, dancing forms. And then there's these static forms. Static forms. Do not underestimate them. They are incredibly powerful, if not the most powerful forms of Qigong. A lot of the Qigong masters and Kung Fu masters use those standing forms to build what they call the empty force in the body. That's the force that allows them to move objects from a distance, to build their Qi to such a point that you can break boards over them and so forth. Very powerful forms, the standing forms. And eventually you'll build up to a point where you can hold for a very long time. And you'll get these breakthroughs where ecstasy comes in. Your body, you're holding for half hour, 45 minutes, whatever it is. And I always recommend holding at least a few minutes every day. If you can get up to 45 minutes to an hour, you're doing good. And you'll get these openings that'll happen of ecstasy and happiness and bliss. It's just quite indescribable. Movement will naturally come in. You'll start moving as the channels start to clear out. The channels will clear. It'll clear all the channels out. And it's also, I also recommend working on relaxing the core. They call it the Sung practice. Total relaxation from the core outward. Relax that core outward. And just relax into the posture. Drop it all. Drop everything. let it all go. Don't worry about it. Emptiness practice. Very, very important for Qigong to get into that clear, empty space. You're not doing anything. And the Tao Te Ching talks about getting everything done by not doing anything. Standing static practices are just that. You're getting the whole practice done, and you're not doing anything. You're allowing it to happen, and it's all getting done. And you'll end up afterwards totally rejuvenated. Your body's stronger. You can hold yourself up. You put your body into particular alignments. You get particular energy flows through the body. It does it all by itself. Very powerful, very beautiful. Don't underestimate it. If you're uncomfortable standing, if you've got an injury, work your way up. Go very slow, go very carefully, and I'll go into some of these practices probably on this blog too. But you could start sitting. You could start with sitting. Do it sitting. Get into the state. Start feeling it. Work your way up. A stool. Get up on a stool. Do it. So you're standing. If you can get up and stand, if you can stand 10, 15 minutes a day, you're going to be doing okay. You're going to be able to work your way up to a full practice. Take your time. That's the one thing about Qigong. It's very important to take your time doing. So you've got the static form, and you've got the dynamic forms. Yin and Yang right there. And you've got martial forms, which go into a whole different thing. I don't teach them any martial forms. It's all for healing and enlightenment and self-development teachings that I do. Although you can get that from the martial forms. Don't get me wrong. You can get very high spiritual energy through the martial forms. And so those are some of the different ways of doing it, different modalities. Again, like I said, good luck trying to find an absolutely pure tradition. It's very, very difficult. Like, for instance, there's a practice called primordial Tai Chi or primordial Qigong or Wu Qigong. And I've seen several forms for it. Well, what's the real one? The one that I like is the one that I learned from a Wudang master, primordial Qigong. I find that resonates the best with me. I know 3 or 4 different Qigong Wuji forms. And I like that one. And they all incorporate similar, they're all very similar. They have similar forms and movements in them. Don't worry about it. Qigong is pure as it is, no matter what. You really, on an ultimate level, you can't do it wrong. It's a self-correcting process. I do recommend working directly with a teacher one-on-one if you can. That's the best. Even just a couple of workshops just to get the form down. Talk to them on the phone. Call them. Video. Connect through the computer. Video talking. Whatever it is. It's much better. You're going to get a much better grasp on what's happening. If he or she, the teacher, can come over and correct you and work with you directly on your body, sometimes you'll get an energy download that way, and it can come through better. The teaching just comes through better. It just does. That's how it's traditionally taught, one-on-one. If you can't, do your best with what you've got. Use it. Don't be afraid. Go for it. Learn the form, particularly if you can keep it a simple, basic, harmonizing form, something that balances and harmonizing. You don't want something too dramatic. You don't want something too quiescent. You want it right in the middle, something that's going to fortify you, build you, and there's a lot of simple ways of doing that. I'm going to be offering some of those on these videos. Very simple methods that you can do. And also, I'm probably offering separate forms that you can put together to make your own form that I have found that you can work that way. It doesn't upset the energy because I've been doing it long enough to see that when I combine this particular form with this one, there's no conflict of energy. And that's taken time to see that and realize that. So I'll be giving you different forms that you can put together. After a while, you can put all the systems together when you've really mastered all the separate forms. But not till then. You really want to take your time. And really, you just really want to enjoy yourself. Enjoy your exploration. Don't be afraid to try different things. Talk to different teachers. Get a different view. I'm not right about everything. I know that for sure. I know. I'm not an absolute master. I know that. And I humbly accept that. And I'm always willing to learn. And so explore. Get out there. Look around. See what you find. But once you find something that resonates with you, stick with it. Stick with it. Stick with it. And enjoy it. You can get a lot out of it. It's done a lot for me, and I'm very, very appreciative to all my teachers, all my masters, all my gurus, and my students. I've learned a lot from my students and continue to learn from them. So enjoy, and I will be back with more. I'm sure there'll be a part 4 coming up soon. And peace.